Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. Chapter 91 Bejand X Pariston appears. This person is what you said, the opponent that the old man is going to train. Somewhere in the mainland, a fierce middle-aged man looked at the scene on the screen, stroking his beard with a little interest in his eyes. The strength is good, but if you want to be the opponent of the old man, you are not qualified. The image on the screen was the scene of the middle-aged killer being chased by Luo Lin to kill him. How about adding this? Pariston smiled and released another video, which was the battle between Luo Lin and Hisoka in the Sky Arena. Especially at the end of the battle, Luo Lin's two nearly missing frames were highlighted and repeated several times. This is... Byongda's eyes lit up suddenly, and then he laughed out loud. No wonder you say that the old man cultivated him as an opponent. When this kind of person appears in front of him, even I can't help but want to wait for him to grow up and fight against him. Hearing what Byong said, Pariston frowned slightly at this time, and heard something wrong in Byongda's words. Originally, his purpose of coming to Byongda was to arouse Byongda's interest to deal with Luo Lin. His own son ruined the opponent he chose. When the news reached Netero's ears, Paris could imagine how exciting Netero's face would be. But now Byongda's tone seems to be, "That's right, I just don't want to make a move right now." Bai Yang turned around, looked at Pariston and said directly. "Ha." Pariston was taken aback. He should not have the habit of speaking his mind. "Your purpose is clearly on your face." Bai Yang glanced at Pariston and said directly. The smile on Pariston's face was still warm, and he just looked at Byongda like this, as if he was waiting for Byongda to give an explanation. According to his original thinking, Byongda should not let go of such a rare opponent. "The plan has entered the final stage," Bai Yang said very abruptly. The final stage, that is to say, Pariston was stunned. "That's right, it's time to move the things in front of me." Bai Yang grinned. "Pariston, is it time to say goodbye?" Pariston muttered to himself, with a little disappointment on his face. "That's right, so, I'm not interested in anything else for the time being, you can understand." Bai Yang stopped looking at Pariston and turned around to leave. "By the way, let me remind you, it's absolutely possible, but don't put yourself in it, otherwise, I won't avenge you." Byong turned around suddenly, looked at Pariston and warned. "Okay, I see," Pariston replied with a smile on his face. That smile was as warm, empty as ever. HMPH. Better not. Seeing Pariston's fake smile that couldn't be faked anymore, Bai Yang snorted coldly, and glanced at Luo Lin's profile picture on the screen. "Boy, I hope you can survive. Maybe decades later, you will be an interesting opponent." Byongda turned around and strode away. Watching Byongda's leaving back, the smile on Pariston's face gradually disappeared, looking at the image of Luo Lin on the screen. "What a pity, President. It's time to say goodbye. This is the last game. What kind of ending should I send you?" Pariston's voice gradually became thinner, so thin that he didn't know whether he was thinking in his heart or really said it. Ripatra City. As the border city of the Mingbo Republic, one of the 5 largest countries in the world, it has an alternative prosperity that is different from those first-tier cities. Walking out of a very common restaurant, Luo Lin Yi looked satisfied. As expected of a gourmet guide given by a gourmet hunter at Chi, although it's not a famous restaurant, the taste is really good. Luo Lin praised in his heart. Because of the relationship between the gourmet hunter and the exotic beasts, exotic flowers and plants in the whole world, the gourmet industry in this world can indeed be called developed. In particular, Luo Lin also spends money to buy food on the Hunter website. Hunter's food guide precisely avoids all famous but not delicious shops. It's been 10 days, and there has been no reaction except for that attack. Is it because I didn't prepare for the second move, or I temporarily gave up and held back the big move? Luo Lin walked on the street with a little thought on his face. Originally, after he discovered the surveillance over the middle-aged killer's head, he would have people continue to attack him in a while. As a result, the past 10 days have been calm. This actually makes Luo Lin. Luo Lin stopped and looked at the figure in front of him with surprise. "Pariston, it's me." Pariston waved at Luo Lin with a smile on his face. "Did you take the shot yourself this time?" Luo Lin looked at Pariston. His vigilance had been raised to the highest level, and his eyes were already scanning the surroundings, looking for possible ambush. After all, He didn't believe that Periston dared to deal with him alone. Sure enough, you already know that I arranged the attack. Did Mr. Jin tell you? Periston had a kind smile that didn't match his words at all. Okay, don't be so vigilant, I didn't come here with malice this time. Periston waved his hand and said. Otherwise, I wouldn't choose such a place to meet you. Periston said and pointed around. After all, neither of them are lawless wanted criminals. One is a new professional hunter, and the other is the vice president of the Hunter Association. Therefore, whether it is Luo Lin or Periston, it is obviously impossible to directly start a war in the public. Then what are you doing here? Luo Lin looked at Periston and asked. Don't be so impatient. Do you want to discuss things here? Why don't you find a place to have a drink and chat while drinking? Periston said to Luo Lin in the tone of an old friend reunited, but an enemy. Luo Lin narrowed his eyes slightly, not letting down his vigilance in the slightest. If Palstone really did it directly, Luo Lin would feel a little more relaxed, but now Luo Lin is even more vigilant. Chapter 92. Luo Lin thought about it and agreed. He also wanted to know what the hell Periston was trying to do. Cheer up, since this is the case, then you can decide where to drink. In case Brother Luo Lin is still so guarded against me when we are talking. Periston said with a smile. Luo Lin took a deep look at Periston. He is a little bit convinced that this guy is not going to attack him now, but he must have no good intentions. As for the location, Luo Lin didn't struggle much. After all, if Palstone wants to attack him, it doesn't matter where he chooses. Randomly found a clean bar. Because it is not a rush hour, the bar is very empty and quiet. Periston took the initiative to order drinks. Don't mind if I have some drinks. Periston said with a smile. 933. Tell me, what's the matter? Luo Lin asked directly without the intention of going around the corner. What a hurry. Periston shook his head. That's fine, I'll just say it directly, let's cooperate. Periston said with a warm smile on his face. Luo Lin subconsciously picked his ears. What did you say? Let's cooperate, Periston said again without even the slightest fluctuation in the smile on his face. Are you sick? Luo Lin looked at Periston with a strange face. It was good that he didn't kill Periston directly and cooperated. Luo Lin said that he was about to get up and leave. Don't you want to hear what I want to cooperate with you first? Periston said with a smile on his face. Luo Linton nodded, and turned to look at the Paris channel. Cooperation. You don't have what I want, and I don't have what you want. If you cooperate. Luo Lin pretended to be thinking for a while, and then pretended to suddenly say, you are following me because of Netero, don't you want me to cooperate with Netero? Luo Lin looked at Periston playfully. Papa. Periston applauded. Mr. Luo Lin is really smart. I think Mr. Luo Lin should be clear that we are all playmates who are favored by Chairman Netero. And we are all targeted by President Netero in different fields. How about joining forces to make President Netero have a better time together? Periston seemed to have not seen the role of Luo Lin, and said sincerely. I really admire your face. Luo Lin looked at the brightly smiling Periston and snorted coldly, ignored Periston, turned and left. Watching the back of Luo Lin leaving, Periston had a smile on his mouth. Sure enough, I still want to win the president once more at the end. Periston murmured. He really wanted to work with Luo Lin. As for the content of the cooperation, he will provide resources to train Luo Lin, and before next year, he will train Luo Lin to the level where he can fight against Netero. Before Netero is overthrown by his son Byongda, let Netero fight a hearty fight. In the end, he couldn't help his own nature. After all, President Netero's hatred for him, and Luo Lin's hatred for him, are what he desires most. At this time, the waiter who had just stepped forward to order wine for the two came over. Won't Mr. Periston do it? Whispered the waiter. Do it. Periston glanced at him with a bright smile. Who do you do it? The Phantom. The waiter froze for a moment, walked to the door and looked at Luo Lin in the distance. At this time, Luo Lin had already reached the end of the corridor, which happened to be a blind spot for monitoring. Then Luo Lin's figure suddenly shattered. The waiter looked dumbfounded. He is also a good player of Nen. But at such a close distance just now, he didn't realize that Luo Lin was just a phantom. Mr. Periston. The waiter was stunned looking at the empty seats. It took him a while to react, and he turned back to the bar in a daze. Looking at the empty bar, he couldn't help but wonder whether he was not suitable for being in Nen's business. Or, you might as well just be a waiter here. Luo Lin, who was shopping in the commercial street, suddenly sneered, and said in a low voice, "The sixth one, real people dare not come over and cooperate." From the very beginning, he realized that the Periston who appeared in front of him was not a real person, but a phantom or clone of manipulator. In fact, under normal circumstances, it would be difficult for Luo Lin to distinguish the avatar of Nen, who is almost indistinguishable from a real person like Periston. But there is one exception, that is, when using the active ability of the stand-in, 0. When Luo Lin actively uses the stand-in ability, he will have a very high degree of concentration to ensure that he can see through the ability with hidden characteristics. Therefore, at this time, even the Nen who is not attached to Luo Lin will still be seen through by Luo Lin. He might not be able to see those with extremely strong hidden abilities when they didn't affect him, but Periston's clone. In Luo Lin's eyes, it is a figure formed by a cloud of thoughts. So looking for an opportunity, Luo Lin created a stand-in to manipulate and leave with Periston, and the real body continued to go shopping here. But when he got to the place, when he saw that the waiter, who was a Nen person, controlled the overflow of life energy and deliberately pretended to be a common person, he guessed that Periston probably had nothing to do with it. But when he heard what Periston said about Netero, he really laughed. He could tell that Periston really wanted to cooperate with him. But what about the face? Looking for cooperation after targeting him. And when the cooperation was proposed, the thoughts against him were not restrained at all. What a fool he was to fall for that. But this time it wasn't all fruitless. Judging from the accuracy of Periston's avatar, Periston is either a manipulator or a trait-type ability user. They're all quite difficult types. Luo Lin sighed. Just like the ability of the emitter ability user is the most domineering and most defensive ability system. The trait system is the most mysterious Nen system. The abilities of the trait system are so weird that 3.8 abilities are possible. And the manipulator is the most difficult to deal with. Few people dare to say that they will be able to defeat the masters of the manipulator before they have figured out the manifestations and rules of the manipulator. Of course, Luo Lin has another harvest. The ant incident that led to the fall of Netero next year is indeed inseparable from Periston. Luo Lin felt slightly emotional in his heart. Although Palestin's malice outweighed the idea of cooperation against Netero is indeed true. And the reason why Periston had such an idea, and even almost put it into action. All Luo Lin could think of was Paris notifying Netero of his imminent death. After all, judging from the Hunter election, Periston does not lack affection for Netero, although, this affection may be a little twisted. Chapter 93. With the end of the meeting between Periston and Luo Lin, Periston seemed to be silent. As for Luo Lin, it was the same as the previous 10 days, and there was no more assassination. Although a little puzzled, Luo is obviously very satisfied with returning to the daily life of common. After all, what he lacks now is the accumulation of time. It only takes 2 or 3 months to become Nen, and the time is still too short. Then, Luo Lin travels in various cities on weekdays, and tastes the world's top delicacies according to the strategy. As for practice, he certainly did not fall behind. Under the practice that has almost become normal every day, Luo Lin's total thoughts are increasing at a considerable rate every day. The only regret for Luo Lin is that his high-speed growth period seems to be over. In less than a month and a half, Luo Lin's potential capacity reached an astonishing 120,000. And since then, his practice speed has dropped sharply again, and now after a day of practice, Luo Lin's progress speed is only 1,000. According to Luo Lin's calculations, at this speed of practice, after 1 year, his potential capacity O3 can reach about 170,000. Although it's not too slow to some extent. However, compared to the speed of becoming a commoner with 120,000 potential capacity and 12,000 apparent capacity in 3 or 4 months, it is still too slow. From then on, Luo Lin finally recovered from his laziness and started a new round of training plan. He started calling Biscuit when he had nothing to do. His original intention was actually to learn how Biscuit can use Conjurer's mind energy to quickly restore physical strength. But in the end, I learned from Biscuit that her rapid recovery ability is actually only through the massage of the Beast Magic Beauty Lady and the special mind energy to quickly relax the body and mind. Let the body quickly enter the best resting state. At first, Luo Lin was a little disappointed when he heard Biscuit say that, after all, he wanted the ability to quickly recover his physical and mental strength. However, after chatting with Biscuit for a while, he suddenly felt that this ability of Biscuit was the real mystery. After all, forcibly recovering one's physical strength with mind energy is better than recovering naturally after one's body enters the best state of rest. Maybe this kind of recovery speed is a bit slow, but the benefits to the body are obviously far greater than the ability to forcibly restore physical strength. And then Luo Lin started the development and practice of this ability under the remote guidance of Biscuit. It's just that Lu and Biscuit couldn't directly guide them because they were far away. So Biscuit can only roughly point out a direction for Luo Lin, and then Biscuit told Luo Lin about his original development experience. Others need Luo Lin to develop by himself. According to Biscuit, when she first developed her massage ability to the extreme, she naturally possessed this ability. Luo Lin fell into deep thought. So, he's going to learn massage now. The corner of Luo Lin's mouth twitched, and he kicked this idea out of his mind. Although it is impossible to copy Biscuit's ability development path, it is indeed worthy of reference. The point is how to relax and treat your body well. Luo Lin thought about Biscuit's words in his heart. Then, relying on the super speed of thinking brought about by powerful mental power. After Luo Lin forcibly read dozens of hundreds of health-preserving books in a certain city's library for 3 days, Luo Lin successfully become a master of health science. Now he can easily live to be 100 years old without disease or disaster. Damn. Although its system doesn't show the lifespan, but when the life force is only 1 point, with the nourishment of mind energy, the lifespan can easily surpass Netero. Then, Luo Lin abandoned the development method of Biscuit, and completely considered the ability to let his body relax to the extreme and enter the best rest state in the way of thinking of Nen. Then, Luo Lin did it, through the emitter ability, and the best resting state after the Biscuit massage that I have experienced, and the knowledge of the hundreds of health books. That's right, he really used the knowledge from those hundreds of health-preserving books. This is enough to show that you never know when the knowledge you have learned that you think is useless will suddenly be used. In short, Luo Lin has successfully developed the ability to forcibly put the body into an optimal rest state through the emitter ability. Luo Lin Te intends to exhaust his thoughts in a safe state, preparing to test his ability. Of course, Luo Lin didn't just use up more than 30 hours of practice to completely consume his thoughts. Just like Gon's guessing boxing can shoot out thousands of Nian Qi at one time, Luo Lin's apparent energy is as high as 12,000, even if he doesn't use his ultimate skill, he can easily use up his Nian Qi completely. Of course, there is no waste, but all stored in the prison. And the power effect is also great. Even if Luo Lin's mental energy is completely exhausted, it only takes half an hour for Luo Lin to fully recover. And 423 is this ability that can be used at any time as long as it is not in a combat state. Even if you don't fall asleep, it just doesn't have the effect of restoring your mind, and the speed of physical recovery is extended by a few minutes. Of course, it's not without its downsides. The recovery of the body never appears out of thin air, but requires the consumption of energy. This also caused Luo Lin to become very hungry after using his ability. However, the strong digestion ability brought by strong physical fitness, plus enough high-energy foods, this is not a big problem. With the development of this ability, Luo Lin's battery life has undergone a leap-forward qualitative change. To some extent, his thoughtfulness no longer bothered him. So, Luo Lin's enhancer ability, which had been stranded due to lack of mind energy, was finally on the agenda. The development direction of the enhancer ability is very simple in Luo Lin's expectation, that is, enhancement. Similar to system upgrades, all-round reinforcement without dead ends. Of course, Luo Lin doesn't expect to be able to achieve the improvement of the essence of life used by the system. What he needs is pure all-round strengthening of the body, as well as the strength of the mind, that is, the all-round improvement of training. Chapter 94. Nen of Enhancer. Luo Lin got up and stretched with emotion. It seems that we won't be able to continue wandering around the city anymore. Luo Lin sighed slightly. The ability development of enhancer is different from the ability of emitter and manipulator, which mainly adds and sets rules by oath and restriction. The practice of enhancer nen is more important to be polished and completed in daily practice. Even if Luo Lin can adjust his aptitude to 190%, the 10 points still cannot be changed. Bought a map from a newsstand on the side of the road, Luo Lin searched the map familiarly, looking for that remote place that almost no one would go to. The only pity is that there are no dense forests around the city where Luo Lin is currently located, and the city is almost surrounded by wilderness. Soon, Luo Lin found a suitable place. Without any delay, Lu Lin set off directly to go there. This place is suitable for enhancer to practice. Luo Lin looked at the valley full of strange rocks in front of him, found an open space, took out the tent from the storage space of Nian Beast and set it up. Let's get started. Luo Lin put on a pair of cool and suitable clothes for activities, took a deep breath, and straightened his expression. The next moment, Luo Lin was highly focused and directly entered the super high-speed state of Shinpu Quan Ting. The world, once again, slowed down. Luo Lin could even clearly see the gravel flying slowly in the wind, but Luo Lin immediately withdrew his mind and turned his attention back to himself. After standing out of the most basic martial arts stance, Luo Lin began the training of the same basic horse stance punching. During this process, Luo Lin has been maintaining a state of ultra-high-speed Zindaquan listening, and every punch he swings at full speed. If there were outsiders here, they probably wouldn't even be able to see Luo Lin's punches, but could only see Luo Lin standing in place, gating, motionless. And Luo Lin's training plan was formulated with reference to Netero's previous training plan. It's just that the training purposes of Luo Lin and Netero are different. At the beginning, Netero felt that his body and martial arts had reached the limit. In order to thank martial arts for his gift, he began to pray and punch 10,000 times a day on the top of the mountain. Then, in the practice of praying in Zhengchen for many years, Netero's spirit has undergone a transformation, and he has inadvertently stepped into a higher realm. Luo Lin, on the other hand, is in that super high-speed spiritual world because of his powerful mental power. The current practice is to make his body match his mental speed completely. Therefore, Luo Lin will not always adjust to this punching drill. With every punch, Luo Lin could feel the deep-seated power in his body being mobilized, supporting him to move in the realm of speeding spirit. No, it's too difficult to practice with all your strength. Luo Lin just punched 3 times, then stopped with a frown. Feeling the exhaustion of physical strength and the exhaustion of the body, in this state, at most 1 minute, he will reach the limit. Practice for 1 minute and rest for half an hour. Then how long will he have to practice? Go at half speed first. Luo Lin's thoughts moved slightly, and he began to adjust his depth in the super high-speed spiritual world. Of course, it is said that the speed has been weakened by half, but in fact, Luo Lin's acceleration in this spiritual field is the same as when he first started. As for the reason, naturally, with the previous upgrade of Luo Lin, the doubling of spiritual power and vitality allowed Luo Lin to enter a deeper spiritual realm. If you insist on describing it, at level 1, Luo Lin, whose vitality and mental strength are both 1, can compress his physical time by 10 times. After the upgrade, Luo Lin, whose life force and Shen force have been raised to 2, has been able to compress his time to 20 times. This is also the reason why Luo Lin's body will still run out of strength after 100 punches or so, even after being supported by Nian Qi. Acceleration at a deeper level will naturally bring about more exaggerated consumption. And if it's only 10 times faster? Luo Lin tried to punch, feeling the physical strength and physical consumption. With this level of load, it's no problem to practice for 30 minutes at a time. Luo Lin smiled. It only reduces the load of the other half, but the support time is extended by nearly 30 times. It may sound incomprehensible, but it's actually quite normal. It's as if a person's limit load is 100 kilograms. In this case, he can only advance a few meters with difficulty, but if he is carrying 50 kilograms, I am afraid that it will not be a problem to advance hundreds of meters or even further. Perhaps, after I level up to increase my attributes, I'm afraid it won't be difficult to maintain 10 times faster activities. Luo Lin couldn't help but have this kind of thought in his heart, but then he was thrown out of Luo Lin's mind. He can achieve higher level acceleration, so why does he only pursue low level acceleration? The next thing to do is to constantly strengthen the body with nen during activities, so as to strengthen the body so that moving at will at this speed will not cause a load on the body. Quote. Luo Lin took a deep breath. No longer thinking about it, he devoted himself wholeheartedly to the practice. Every time he punched, Luo Lin would feel the force running from the deeper rhythms of his body with all his body. And among them, the mind energy of the enhancer is constantly urged to strengthen the body. In the beginning, Luo Lin's strengthening was very smooth. With 190% enhancer talent, it is not difficult to develop an ability to strengthen the body in all directions. The problem is that the multiplier of the enhanced ability that Luo Lin needs is too high. At the beginning, you need to match 10 times the mental acceleration multiple, match 20 times the mental acceleration multiple, and then there are 30 times and 40 times. It can be seen that the higher the level of Luo Lin, the higher the multiplier he needs to strengthen. In other words, what he needs is the ability to strengthen his body infinitely, Zhu Nuo Jiao Li. This is the real difficulty of Luo Lin's ability development this time. However, for this difficulty, Luo Lin has long been psychologically prepared, and has made preparations for long-term sharpening ability. In the days that followed, Luo Lin entered a completely opposite state from the slack in the past 2 months. Every day he was exercising in the ultra-high-speed field of Xindi Quan Ting, and when he was tired, he would stop and manipulate his body. Enter a state of ultimate relaxation for recovery. After recovering, he began to practice again. Except for eating and sleeping at night, Luo Lin spent all his time on practicing. It can be said that this is the hardest period of Luo Lin's practice since time travel. Even when I followed Biscuit, I didn't practice such a rigorous practice. Until one day a month later, a very sudden feeling rose in Luo Lin's heart. It's not that his ability has been cultivated, but that he can be upgraded. Chapter 95. Upgrade. Luo Lin looked dazed for a moment. The month-long practice made him unable to react for a while, but the strong mental power made him wake up from the state of being immersed in the practice very quickly. Can you upgrade? Luo Lin was a little dazed, and quickly called out his system panel. Open black lens bracket 100 level ascension system close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket name, Luo Lin close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket level, 2 3000 3000ths close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket vitality, 2 close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket spiritual power, 2 close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket nen, 13,215 132,156 close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket world, Hunter x Hunter close black lens bracket. The experience is really full. Luo Lin was pleasantly surprised, but also somewhat puzzled. According to his calculations, he is still some time away from leveling up. By the way, Luo Lin suddenly reacted. When he calculated the experience, he seemed to have forgotten to include the experience gains from activities in the super speed realm. Because he has almost never used this method to gain experience, he subconsciously ignored it. But in fact, in this state, the efficiency of gaining experience is currently his highest. And this month's practice, he spends almost half of the time in the super speed state 970, the amount of experience he has gained can be imagined. I remember that before practicing, my experience points should be more than 1,200, that is to say, in a month, I gained 1,800 experience points. 60 points a day. Luo Lin's face was full of disbelief and the surprise of sudden wealth. 60 points of experience a day, when did he, Lao Luo, fight such a rich battle? Faced with the sudden surprise of being able to upgrade, Luo Lin chose to upgrade without hesitation. It was that familiar warm current gushing out of his body again, and that kind of involuntary comfort completely filled Luo Lin at this moment. 10 seconds later, Luo Lin came back to his senses, with a bit of reluctance in his eyes. After each upgrade, Luo Lin will never forget the feeling when upgrading. System panel. Luo Lin called out in his heart. Open black lens bracket 100 level ascension system close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket name, Luo Lin close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket level, 309 thousandths close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket vitality, 4 close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket spiritual power, 4 close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket world. Hunter x Hunter close black lens bracket. Facing the upgraded system panel, the first thing Luolin Adai saw was the upgrade experience after level 3. 9,000 experience. Luolin looked astonished. Even with the efficiency of his 60 points of experience a day before, 9,000 experience would take 150 days. More importantly, it is 1,000 experience points from the first level to the second level, 3,000 experience points from the second level to the third level, and 9,000 experience points from the third level to the fourth level, so the experience required for each level is tripled. Luolin was full of disbelief. If the experience required for each level is tripled, wouldn't it mean that he needs hundreds of thousands of millions of experience points to upgrade within 10 levels? That 100 levels, what kind of astronomical figure is it? For a moment, Luolin had the urge to lie down and settle down. But then Luolin saw his new attributes. Life Force 4, Mental Force 4. Luolin was slightly taken aback. So not only is the experience doubled, but my attributes are also doubled. Luolin was silent. If it is said that his upgrade attributes are doubled, then it is not incomprehensible to double his experience. After all, it can be known from such a simple calculation that at level 100, his dual attributes will be as high as 2 to the 98th power, that is. Luolin paused, took out his phone and turned on his calculator. That is 3.16x 10 to the 29th power. 29 zeros after 3. Luolin rubbed his temples to relieve his brain that was a little down. Becoming a god at the 100th level, this is really a god at the 100th level. Luolin let out a long breath, and suddenly felt that everything was dull. A full 10 minutes passed before Luolin completely woke up from the sage mode. The attribute of that astronomical figure is only his future possibility after all. It is not certain whether he can reach it or not. What is the matter with him being dull now? After patting his face, Luolin revived his spirit. He feels that now he needs extremely boring practice to ease his mood. In an instant, Luolin regained his concentration, entered a state of super speed, and began to practice again. However, as soon as he started practicing, Luolin noticed something was wrong. This is because I want to use fatigue to relieve the stimulation of the first time, the monthly movement speeds up. Unsurprisingly, the degree to which he can accelerate is even more outrageous, corresponding to 4 points of vitality and spiritual power, 40 times the mental acceleration. The whole world seemed to be silent for an instant. In this extreme silence, Luolin only felt that his body was unprecedentedly clear. It is not a description, but a real incomparable clarity. If Luolin used to be able to vaguely feel that he could control every inch of skin and every muscle of his body. Now, Luolin can completely perceive and control every part of the body, muscles, bones, fascia, flesh, internal organs, blood vessels. Everything in the body is extremely clear in Luolin's perception, and take control. Even under concentrated attention, Luolin could faintly perceive his own cell activity, which was an astonishing reminder of recent changes. Is this my body? Luolin felt everything in his body. The barriers that had been bothering his enhancer ability development for a long time shattered at this moment. How to open bigger aura nodes, burst out more thoughts, how to strengthen his body, and which parts of the body can achieve his goal. In the past month, the ability development that had made little progress was completed directly at this moment. Boom! Luolin's thoughts erupted suddenly, and White's transparent air swelled several meters from Luolin's center. This is not Yuan's technique of manipulating thoughts to spread out, but Luolin's pure burst of practice. The Nian Qi several meters thick, under Luolin's control, quickly returned, clinging to Luolin and wrapping around his body. At this time, every part of Luolingian is better than that of common cold ability. What's more, Luolin could feel the power coming up from his body continuously, surrounded by this layer of strong thoughts. Luolin tried to move his body. Under the acceleration of nearly 40 times, Luolin's body did not feel the slightest pressure and moved freely. At this moment, even Luolin himself was in a daze. That's done. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Chapter 96. This is finished. Even Luolin seemed a little dazed at this moment, and Yi Dudu was unbelievable. But Luolin looked at the almost static world around him, and his body that didn't feel the slightest load when he moved. There is no doubt that his ability has been successfully developed, but this ability is not as perfect as he imagined. First of all, this ability is not the ability to strengthen his physical fitness in an all-round way as he imagined at the beginning, so that his speed of the Emperor of Power will directly increase dozens of times. That kind of thing seems to be far beyond the reach of Enhancer Nen. And the principle of his ability is probably because after the upgrade greatly increased his spiritual power, he perceived the complete structure of his body at a finer, micro level. He found the power source for him to be able to operate in that super high-speed field. Then use the Enhancer Nian Qi to strengthen it, so that he can withstand the speed beyond the limit, and at the same time use Nian Qi to replace the energy consumption of the body. And this leads to, Luo Lin felt the rapidly depleting Nian Qi in his body, and Dao Dao calculated it. 40 times the normal consumption. Luo Lin thoughtfully. Is it because the time I jokingly said about compressing the somatosensory time is 40 times, so the consumption has also doubled 40 times? Luo Lin couldn't help feeling amused. The ability of somatosensory compression is actually a combination of powerful mental strength and human body reaction force, which can raise the body's reaction force to the limit. There is no such thing as a multiple. But if you insist, his current reaction ability is indeed 4 times higher than that at the beginning. After all, because of the upgrade, its vitality has increased from 1 to 4. So, it should be in my subconscious mind that this ability corresponds to the number of vitality and spiritual power. Luo Lin guessed in his heart. Vitality and mental power are 4 points, so when the somatosensory time is compressed to the limit state, activities need to consume 40 times the corresponding amount. And this 40 times consumption is still under the premise of not fighting. For those who are Nen, after entering the combat state, because they need to use various Nian Qi application skills, the consumption rate of Nian Qi is usually 6 to 10 times that of the normal state. Under normal circumstances, Luo Lin has a strong ability to control thoughts, and he can reduce this number to about 3 times under normal conditions. The hair of the overload has caused my ability to control the energy to drop a lot. Luo Lin frowned. Even when he turned on aura nodes for the first time, his ability to control Nian Qi was not so bad. In this state, if he enters a combat state, the consumption speed of his mind energy may directly reach 10 times the consumption speed. That is to say, the consumption of fighting in this state is 400 times that of normal. Luo Lin estimated in his mind. And because this ability belongs to the enhancer, it needs to act directly on the body, so Luo Lin can't use the stored mind energy to use the ability. With a consumption of 400 Qi per second, my mind energy is 130,000, that is to say, it can only be used for about 300 seconds. Luo Lin frowned, but didn't care too much about time and consumption. Compared with the huge improvement in strength, this kind of thought energy consumption is not worth mentioning at all. Even if it wasn't for the fact that Lorraine herself is a bug-like existence, it would be impossible to develop this ability. The real problem now is that the air resistance is too great. How come at this time, the rules of physics emerge? Luo Lin couldn't help complaining when he thought of the air resistance he felt when he was active just now. Obviously, it makes people feel that the speed of the body has been able to keep up with the speed of the mental operation, but it is difficult to really increase the speed completely because of the air resistance. The sonic barrier is tightly restraining Luo Lin. Among them, the pressure brought by the breakthrough factor to the body is fortunately, Luo Lin can easily bear it. But consumption problem. Luo Lin really couldn't bear it. If Luo Lin forcefully breaks through the speed of sound, the consumption of Nian Qi will be so terrifying that he is far from being able to bear it. However, breaking through the speed of sound in terms of shooting speed is much easier than moving the whole person at the speed of sound. 0. Ask for flowers. Even with Luo Lin's current all-out shot, the consumption of double or even triple the speed of sound is not too big. To a certain extent, I'm still right about what Biscuit said. In the state of somatosensory compression, the benefits and sacrifices of the whole person's rapid movement are completely out of proportion. Luo Lin thought of the discussion he had with Biscuit. But, if I develop an ability that can ignore air resistance, maybe I can reverse this. Luo Lin propped his chin and thought. He also happens to have an open spot for the conjurer ability, which seems to be on the right track. If that's the case, his combat system can be regarded as completely formed. Luo Lin couldn't help but diverge again. At this moment, a phone ringing interrupted Luo Lin's train of thought. Jingle bell. Luo Lin frowned and took out his phone. Gone. Luo Lin was a little surprised when he saw the calling number. This was the first time Gon contacted him after changing his contact information. But Lirio, because of health problems, he had a lot of phone calls with the only medical student he knew. After a short pause, Luo Lin still chose to answer the phone. Hello. Just as Luo Lin spoke, an urgent voice came from the other end of the phone. Luo Lin, have you seen Jin? Luo Lin raised his eyebrows. It turned out that he contacted him because of Jin's affairs, but how did Gon know that he had met Jin? That's right, I did meet Jin, but what does he mean by not letting me tell you about him? I think you should understand. Luo Lin said directly. Of course, it didn't say that. There was silence on Gon's side. Then there was a voice of excitement in the suppression. Since it's Hunter, come and catch me yourself. Kim must have meant that. Luo Lin blinked. You say yes. How do you know that I know Jin? Luo Lin asked back. Gon said. It's on the official website of the Hunter Association. Chapter 97. The official website of the Hunter Association. Luo Lin was stunned. What the hell? The official website of the Hunter Association has information about his acquaintance with Jin. Could it be that Periston couldn't think of an idea to deal with him, so he just wrote a small composition to arrange him? It's a piece of news that you and Jin discovered a precious ruins, and that you and Jin may become one-star hunters because of the achievements of this ruin. Kai Ya's voice came from the phone. It's a ruin. Luo Lin heaved a sigh of relief. What did he think it was? The matter of the ruins has nothing to do with him. The person who discovered it was Yinda of the 12 earthly branches, and it was Xiaoji's father Jin Fulishi who developed the relic. He is just a 777 witness with a foot in the middle. Speaking of the ruins and gold. Luo Lin's lips curled up suddenly. Xiaoji, do you want to know the fastest way to find Jin? Luo Lin said in a seductive tone. The fastest way to find gold. Xiaoji's heart was moved immediately, but he said before that he had to find it by his own efforts. But Xiaoji was hesitating, but Chiya beside him didn't hesitate at all. Faced with Jiyu's hesitation, Chiya directly shouted, yes, Xiaoji wants to know. Since you want to know, then I'll tell you. The fastest way to find Jin is to let him come to you on his own initiative. Luo Lin said with a smile. Let Jin come to me. Xiaoji was stunned. That's right, as the saying goes, a good hunter often appears as a prey, and that Gai Jin's biggest weakness is the ruins. Luo Lin said directly. As long as you can find a ruin that is precious enough and of great development significance, Jin will definitely find you as quickly as possible. Xiaoji was stunned. His pure worldview never thought that he could find his father like this. Could it be? Chiya next to him was stunned for a moment, and said in surprise, Luo Lin, the reason you met Jin this time is because of that relic. That's right. Luo Lin nodded with a smile and said. When he heard the news about the ruins, Jin rushed to the ruins quickly in the desert where he didn't know the distance. The personal test is effective. Hearing Luo Lin's words, Xiaoji's mood was very complicated at this time. He was delighted to learn the way to find gold, but also a strange emotion. Just like, the goddess you have a crush on is ignoring you, but she directly sticks to the other person. All in all, no words. Thank you for the news. Xiaoji thanked him sincerely. You're welcome. If there is such a day, Kia, you must remember to take a picture of Jin and Xiaoji meeting. I really want to know how shy that guy is. Luo Lin said with a smile. He still has great confidence in the two protagonists, maybe he can really meet that level of ruins, let him watch it for fun. After chatting with little Jackie for a while, Luo Lin hung up the phone, and then Luo Lin opened the official website of the Hunter Association with his mobile phone. Soon, Luo Lin found posts about him. After a cursory glance, Luo Lin frowned suddenly. How should I put it? A post with 7 fakes and 3 reals. The only thing worth noting is that there is a vague mention in the post that the ruins are related to the Dark Continent. They even gave up the discovery of any treasures that might exist in the ruins. Of course, these are very cryptic, and it is completely invisible to people who don't know the Dark Continent. But for those who know the Dark Continent and have some brains, it is not difficult to see what is in it. The person who posted this post has no good intentions. Luo Lin narrowed his eyes slightly. This post clearly pointed out the 3 discoverers of the ruins, Jin, Yinda, and Copper. No, there is also Luo Lin. It also details the identities of Jin Fulishi and Yinda 12 earthly branches, as well as the identity of Luo Lin's novice hunter. Of course, what he said in the original text is that Luo Lin is a new hunter with full potential, and this time his achievements are very likely to become a 1-star hunter. Openly praising, but secretly pointing out that Luo Lin is easy to bully as a novice. At the first moment, Luo Lin's suspicion was Periston's trick. Well, there is no need to doubt, he will definitely die. This is indeed something that Periston can and has the ability to do. And then, probably using the so-called treasures as bait to lure other people to attack Luo Lin and the like. It can be said to be a non-distinctive but useful trick to lure and kill with a borrowed knife. Luo Lin thought for a while and dialed the phone number. Hello. Jin answered the phone immediately. Jin, have you seen the post on the official website of the Hunter Association? Luo Lin said directly without rambling. A post on Hunter's official website? Jin asked in a blank voice. But soon there was a crackling sound, and now they are logging into the Hunter official website with a computer. Soon. I found it, let's post this post about the ruins. Jin said while looking at the post. Periston did it, Kim said directly after reading the post. Sure enough, it's that guy. Luo Lin frowned, he had just passed 1 or 2 useful excuses. Although 2.8 did not expect Periston to really give up. But the big move is holding back this, which is somewhat disappointing. My side will deal with the ruins as soon as possible, but the information on the Dark Continent is almost all blocked, and this ruin is no exception, so it's best not to expect any 1-star. Jin said. Luo Lin nodded slightly, he had never counted on star hunters. Also, I will report the discovery of the unmanned stone in the ruins. This should not be hidden. Many people will not care about this unmanned stone, but there should still be people who do not believe in evil. You should pay more attention to it. Kim reminded. Just let them come here. Luo Lin said directly with a grin. He is now full of confidence in every aspect. Chapter 98. Periston. After hanging up the phone, Luo Lin narrowed his eyes slightly as he looked at the post on the official website of the Hunter Association, with a cold gleam in his eyes. To be honest, now Luo Lin is not afraid of anyone coming to trouble him, but he is very tired of Periston's non-stop calculating behavior. If Palstone appeared in front of him, Lu Linfu would definitely kill him without hesitation. It's a pity, I don't know if I have seen this. Periston will never appear in front of Luo Lin, and the last time he appeared was also a fake body. The only place where Luo Lin made sure he could find Periston was the Hunter Society. If you kill Palestine at the Hunter Association headquarters, it seems that there will be no serious consequences. Luo Lin blinked. If he went directly to the Hunter Association headquarters and killed Periston, at most he would have his hunter license revoked and be judged as a wanted criminal. In addition, it is possible to usher in the pursuit of the Hunter Association and some relationships behind Periston. These things may be unacceptable to other people in this world, but Luo Lin .08, he doesn't care. Luo Lin rested his chin. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that he was messing around. However, even if he made a move, he had to find a good opportunity. If he went to the Hunter Association headquarters excitedly now, maybe Periston will see something, and then avoid it. There must be a legitimate reason to go to the Hunter Association, and then after encountering Palestine, just kill that guy directly and neatly. Luo Lin gradually had an idea in his heart, just when Luo Lin was thinking about how to go to the Hunter Association with legitimate reasons. Jingle bell. Luo Lin's cell phone rang again. Another call. Luo Lin was a little surprised. The phone calls that never rang before, now one after another. Unrecognized phone number. Luo Lin looked at the strange caller ID strangely. Did someone come to the door? Luo Lin was a little curious, and connected the phone. Hi, is that Luo Lin? Luo Lin couldn't help being taken aback by the voice on the other end of the phone. Hisoka. Luo Lynch looked at the phone in his hand strangely. He had guessed a lot of people who might call in his heart before, but he never thought that the caller would be Hisoka. It's me, I didn't expect you to answer my call. Hisoka's smiling voice came over. How could you? Forget it, that's not important. Luo Lin's voice paused, his phone number is not top secret information, it's normal for Hisoka to get it. What are you calling me for? Do you want another date? Luo Lin raised his brows and said, with his current strength, even if Hisoka uses his ability to protect in all directions, he can definitely kill Hisoka with one punch. No, no, no. I was very satisfied with the previous battle in the Sky Arena, so I won't fight with you until I can't deal with you for the time being. Hisoka's cheerful voice came through. Luo Lin could even vaguely see Hisoka smiling. I'm looking for you this time because I want to give you some information for free. Hisoka said with a light smile. Free information. Luo Lin raised his eyebrows. He didn't ask Hisoka such stupid questions as to why he was so kind. For a person like Hisoka, every action must have his own purpose. Let's hear it, Luo Lin said. Crollo, I'm following you. By the way, Crollo is the leader of Phantom Troop. I joined that organization 2 years ago. Hisoka said. Phantom Troop, how could they? Well, it's related to the post on the official website of the Hunter Association. Luo Lin sighed and said helplessly. That's right. The person in charge of information in Phantom Troop is also a member of the Hunter Association, so he also learned that information. Hisoka said with a chuckle. Person in charge of intelligence. It should be Shalnark. Luo Lin thought of a blonde boy with a baby face in the brigade. In the original book, the other party had purchased information about the hotel where Kurapika was staying at that time through Hunter's intelligence network. Criminals use Hunter to buy intelligence and stuff. It's true, whether you are a murderer or a heinous criminal, as long as you pass the Hunter test, you can become a professional hunter. Luo Lin complained directly. After all, the Hunter license is very convenient in all aspects. Hisoka smiled, not caring at all that he himself was the murderous monster. Luo Lin said. According to Crollo, you have a precious treasure in your hand, so you have been eyeing you, and because you found out that we have overlapped, you even asked me for your information. Really? Looking at the phone that Hisoka was talking to, Luo Lin already had some guesses about Hisoka's purpose this time, but he continued, then what do you mean by calling me 950? Declaring war head-on, or preparing to betray Phantom Troop? Quote. Betrayal is too ugly. My original purpose of joining the brigade was to fight Crollo. Hisoka's trembling moan came. Unfortunately, that guy has been impeccable in his actions, and I have never been able to find a chance to make a move. So, do you want to cooperate with me this time to create a chance to fight that Crollo? Luo Lin said directly. No, Hisoka came down directly. I can tell you the NEN information of the brigade, and even backstab a few brigade members when the brigade attacks you, and then help you deal with Crollo. I reject, Luo Lin said directly without hesitation. He probably knows much more about the brigade's capabilities than Hisoka. As for Hisoka fighting for him, Luo Lin has no doubt that even if he hadn't cooperated with him, Hisoka would directly attack Crollo when the time came. So, what is the point of verbal cooperation? If Phantom Troop comes to me, then let them come. As for cooperating with you, let's forget about this kind of thing. If there is nothing else, I will hang up. Chapter 99. Rejected. Hisoka looked at the hung-up phone with a slight smile on his face, without any surprise. Just as Luo Lin thought, even without this cooperative relationship, Hisoka would not hesitate to make a move when the time came. The so-called cooperation. But it's a guarantee. A guarantee that Luo Lin won't make a move on him and leave Crollo to him. Only Hisoka, who has fought against Luo Lin, can understand how strong Bai Luolin has become. Judging from Luo Lin's attitude at the moment, he probably won't attack him. As for Crollo, I hope Crollo doesn't fall directly into his hands. Otherwise it would be a waste. Hisoka whispered to himself, playing with the phone in his hand. I saw a cloud of Nianchi constantly deforming in Hisoka's hands, and changing its nature. I didn't see any movement from Hisoka. The phone in his hand was bounced into the air, the mind energy changed, the viscous mind energy stuck the phone back, and then bounced out again, repeating the cycle. Hisoka looked at the plasticine-like Nianchi in his palm, narrowed his long and narrow eyes slightly, and flashed a flash of light. This level is still far behind. Thinking of the still world glimpsed in the ring before, Hisoka's eyes became extremely fiery. Hang up the phone. Luo Lin saw the mobile phone in his hand, and there was a look of thought in his eyes. Phantom Troop after me. Luo Lin was thoughtful. The post on the official website of the Hunter Association only said that Luo Lin might have obtained a treasure, but it didn't specify what kind of treasure it was. A treasure whose origin or existence is unknown, even if it may be related to the Dark Continent. Will Crollo really be tempted to grab something like this? In particular, it is Shalnark who can be on Hunter's official website, not Crollo himself. So, he can be sure, and even know what the treasure I got is. Luo Lin has a guess in his heart. If he knew that what he got was the No Man Stone, and what the No Man Stone was for, it would be much more reasonable for Crollo to follow him. After all, for Crollo, the resource of unmanned stone is even more useful than a lot of money. A bead-sized unmanned rock soaked in water can generate 20,000 kilowatt-hours of electricity per day, and with the size of the 2 unmanned rocks in his hand, the daily power generation may be around 1 million kWh. This amount of power generation is actually not that high, and some small and medium-sized power plants can achieve this efficiency in 4 hours. For some large power plants, the power generated by the 2 unmanned rocks of Luo Lin can't keep up with their daily power generation in a year. But this is for big countries. For Meteor Street, where Crollo and the others were born, the treasure of No Man's Stone is really very precious. As a recognized no man's land in this world, it is difficult for Meteor Street to obtain supplies from the outside world on a large scale except for garbage. For a building like a power station that requires a steady stream of resources for production, the operating cost on Meteor Street is absolutely ridiculously high compared to the outside world. What's more, the outside world doesn't know how many unmanned stones he has obtained. If there is a little expectation, it is believed that Luo Lin has obtained a lot of unmanned stones that might be able to establish a power system that supplies the entire Meteor Street. In this situation, Crollo or Meteor Street will be following him. That's only reasonable. That's right. Although Hisoka said that it was Crollo who was after him, Luo Lin thinks that Meteor Street should be the one who really was after him. As for Crollo, or Phantom Troop, I'm afraid it's just the dark country of Meteor Street. Certainly, this black glove does not mean that Phantom Troop is Meteor Street's subordinate. The relationship between the two should be more similar to that of equal cooperation. Luo Lin can't jump to conclusions about the specific situation. But, is this the newly borrowed knife? Luo Lin grinned. It should be true that the person who disclosed his information was Periston. According to his chat with Jin, the news about the ruins and the unmanned stone leaked, and the source is Yinda. After all, for Yinda, the 12 earthly branches of the Hunter Association, it is natural to report the discovery of related relics of the Dark Continent that are prohibited by law. Even the unmanned stone in the opponent's hand seems to have been handed over in exchange for other things. However, even so, there are still only a very small number of people who have the ability to know the news. The high level of the Hunter Association, as well as some in the Fairy Hall, know that there are high-level people in the Dark Continent. Only these people can know the information accurately. As for Meteor Street, it is obvious that there is no ability to deploy personnel in such a place, or to contact this group of people. Therefore, in such a short period of time, he could sell all his information, except for that Palestone. Who else could be? Only. However, I don't know who will own this knife in the end. Luo Lin chuckled. Phantom Troop. The feat of taking down this A-level criminal gang should be enough to upgrade to a 1-star professional hunter. And if he is upgraded to 1 star, he will have a very legitimate reason to go to the Hunter Association. Occupy Meteor Street. Okay, great, I see. At Hunter Association headquarters, Vice President's office, Periston hung up the phone. After he hung up the phone, it disappeared out of thin air. Obviously, this phone was some kind of creation of Nen. At this time, the hollow and warm smile on Periston's face became brighter and brighter. Didn't you think that information would be bought by Meteor Street? But that's right, resource-type treasures like unmanned rock are far more valuable to places like Meteor Street than to other people precious. And the influence of Meteor Street is also very good. Zhizu really followed my request and found me a good buyer. Periston smiled and looked to his right. That direction was the office of the president of the Hunter Association, that is, the direction where Netero was. I really want to see your reaction, President Netero. Chapter 100. Head, didn't you say that they gathered in Ukexan City on September 1st? Why did they suddenly call us 2 months earlier? In the ruins of an unknown ruined city, a strong man in wild clothes shouted loudly. It can be seen that the strong man did not yell deliberately, but was born with a loud voice. Uvajin, don't worry, he hasn't arrived yet. The blonde, baby-faced youth Shalnark said with a smile. That is to say, Uvajin, you are too anxious. At least wait until I arrive to ask. Nobunaga, dressed as a ronin, walked in with a long knife on his shoulder and said with a smile. Why should I wait for you to come to ask again? Uvajin curled his lips and said disdainfully, but the corners of his mouth were almost grinning at this moment. What stupid question are you two asking? Since you called us over, of course there is a temporary residence permit. A small figure appeared in the corner of the ruins at some unknown time. Phaeton, you're here too. Nobunaga greeted with a laugh. And Phaeton just glanced at Nobunaga without any other reaction at all. Okay, this way everyone will be here, Shalnark said, looking at the few people present. Hey, isn't everyone gathered this time? Uvajin saw several people present at 247 scratch their heads and said. Including Crollo, Pakunoda, Hugh, Shalnark, Nobunaga, and Phaeton, the group leader, there are only 7 of them. The others are a bit far away from here, and this mission will not be able to catch up. Crollo said as he closed the book in his hand. Hearing what Crollo said, others didn't have any opinions. As confident as they are, not to mention 7 people, even if they are alone, they will not think that they cannot complete the task. Leader, what is this mission? Phaeton asked skeptically. Let me explain. Shalnark stood up and explained. The target this time is a treasure in this person's hands. While talking, Shalnark turned his laptop around and said to several people. This person. Several people present looked at Luo Lin's photo on the screen with calm faces. None of them knew Luo Lin. What kind of treasure is it? Let the 6 of us be together. Nobunaga asked curiously, rubbing his chin. It's a treasure called the Unmanned Stone. Shalnark continued. It is said that the bracelet-sized unmanned stone sinks into the water and can release 20,000 kilowatts of electricity a day. 20,000 kilowatts. Uvajin was surprised. How much is that? I don't know what you are yelling. Nobunaga gave Uvajin a blank look and said angrily. Then you know. Uvajin rolled his eyes and Nobunaga said. But I didn't yell. Nobunaga said confidently. 20,000 kilowatts, that is, 20,000 kilowatt hours of electricity. Shalnark explained with a smile at this time. However, Uvajin still touched his head with a look of incomprehension. Usually, one household uses 3 to 5 kilowatt hours of electricity a day, and 20,000 kilowatt hours is enough for the normal electricity consumption of 2 to 3,000 households. Shalnark explained in detail. 2 or 3,000, that's quite a lot, said the cableway. You think 2 or 3,000 families are quite a lot to kill? Nobunaga said disproportionately. It's pretty much the same anyway. Uvajin laughed. How big is the no-man's stone in that person's hand? Phaeton asked beside him. He is different from a big fool like Uvajin Nobunaga. He knows the concept of 20,000 kilowatt hours of electricity very well. There is no detailed information, but it should be at least the size of a fist. Shalnark replied. The size of a fist, isn't that 2 or 3 million kilowatt hours of electricity? Jia Jin looked at his fist and said in surprise. Well, this kind of simple calculation, he still can't make a mistake. The few people around were speechless watching Uvajin's actions. Nobunaga even directly dismantled the stage. Why don't you use Franklin's fist to count? If you count with his fist, wouldn't it be at least 6 million kilowatt hours of electricity? Can it still be calculated like this? Uvajin looked at Nobunaga with a dazed expression. Everyone present. The size of the nobody rock doesn't matter. Crollo spoke at this point. After confirming the authenticity of the no man's stone, first let QB try to copy it, and ask the source of the no man's stone, and then snatch all the no man's stone. Hearing what Crollo said, several people present grinned. That's right, no matter how many he has, take them all away. Uvajin laughed even more excitedly. Don't be too careless, the opponent has a record of defeating Hisoka on the 200th floor of the Sky Arena. Shalnark said at this time. When Hisoka, Nobunaga was the first to respond. He has always felt that Hisoka's strength is quite strong, especially Nen's flexible love is a simple and difficult ability. But the others didn't respond. None of the Phantom Troop fighters present thought they could defeat Hisoka. If you can beat Hisoka, that's pretty strong. Don't compete with me later, I want to fight him first. Uvajin even said with a smile. It's up to you, Phaeton said indifferently. The opponent didn't simply beat Hisoka, but almost killed Hisoka, and the opponent was not injured. Crollo next to him spoke and settled down. I have watched the video of the battle. The opponent is very strong. When the time comes, we will fight together and capture the opponent alive. This time, the people present were a little more dignified. Almost killed Hisoka, but Fufa was unharmed. Although they all thought that they could defeat Hisoka, in a real life and death battle, they didn't think they could kill Hisoka unscathed. A rare strong man, I really want to compete with him one-on-one. Uvajin shook his head and said. It's obvious what he means, he'll listen to Crollo's, let's get together sometime. Even Uvajin said so, and others naturally have no objection. The other side, Luo Lin discovered a very serious problem at this time. That is, his money is gone. He earned about 400 million ringgits in the Sky Arena, and he spent all of them in the past few months. Especially during the period of a month ago, I traveled to every corner of the city every day to taste delicious food. You can imagine the cost of Apex cuisine in this world, from the chicken that Luo Lin sold for 5 million ringgits in his first pot of gold. It's a waste of money. By the way, I haven't played in the Sky Arena for 90 days, so I've been expelled from 200 floors. Luo Lin scratched his chin thoughtfully. Although it is not that there are other ways to make money, there is really only one place like the Sky Arena where money comes in so quickly and so easily. Buy another ticket to Sky Arena. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.